Well, welcome everyone to the California Community College League, California Community College Women's Caucus, part of the Community College League of California. So today we have what will be our third official meeting, and I'd like just to welcome everyone. I see some new names on the list and some of our newest members. So what we'd like to do first off is just to get some logistics out of the way. You're looking at our steering committee, the group of founding mothers that got us up and going. And that includes Dr. Daisy Gonzalez, Deputy Chancellor, and Linda Waugh, recent past president of the Community College Trustee Association. They were really the instigators in getting us to the place where we are today. So first off, in addition to our trustees, we have our advisory committee. And I'd like to thank this group of women who stepped up and offered their skills and their knowledge base and experience to get us up off the ground and going. So right now, what I'd like to do is to have Maria Wright, Dr. Maria Wright, give us some logistics about the chat room and what we'll be doing today that might require some directions. Maria?
Hi, everyone. Thank you also for joining. We're so excited to have you today. We have a meeting that is going to be just full of great information. Please be sure to engage with us on the chat. I will be helping facilitate the chat and I'll be able to provide some information. Also know that we will be voting today using the built-in Zoom, the webinar poll that Zoom provides, and just be sure to have access to your screen in doing so. You can do it on your mobile phone or on your computer device. So we will be going through that momentarily, but welcome, and I hope that you enjoyed today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I'm Nan Gomez-Heisberg, and a trustee at Kern Community College District. And as I mentioned earlier, part of that core group that was pulled together by Dr. Daisy Gonzalez and Linda Waugh in July to see if there was interest in starting a community college women's group. And obviously at over 200 members and growing, there is an interest and a need. I would like to take a moment to reflect, though, on this past week because it was filled with so many firsts. Dr. Jill Biden, the first community college professor to live in the White House. Yay. Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, the first South Asian and Black Vice President and the first graduate of a historically Black university. And weren't we all taken with Amanda Gorman, the first National Youth Poet Laureate from Los Angeles, another Los Angeles daughter, California daughter, who gave us a glimpse of our past, our history, and also a glimpse of tomorrow. And in her words, "For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." And really being light is what the California Caucus for Women is all about. Our first official meeting, our first meeting, was, I told you, was in July, and then November we met. What I've observed over this time is that we've heard from students, trustees, instructors, managers, CEOs, chancellors, foundations that support the community colleges, and community members, all with an interest and a belief in community colleges and the good that can be done through community college education. And so when we talk about the caucus, we're really talking about a group of people who want to not just want to, who will advocate for change and policies that will advance opportunities and achieve equity for women in the community college system. And so when I say that, I'm also very much aware that some of us may identify with more than just being a woman. And so we recognize that. And one of the things that you may notice from looking at the program for the CCLC is that there are a number of caucuses being held today and tomorrow, and I encourage you to look at that schedule. You just need to sign in through Zoom, and the password is already posted, and so please participate in all the ways that you feel you identify, because all of those ways represent the students and the leaders in California community colleges. So at the very beginning, you saw our Superwoman slide set, and we encourage you to send us information if we've left anything out. We want to be sure that we recognize women. That's part of what we do. We also support leadership development and have an affinity association with the CELAMAR conference, which was started by Pam Fisher. So please look out for that. You'll find that on the CCLC webpage. And then we also have an interest, even today, I didn't wear my but first equal pay button. Even today, we have a need to recognize that pay may not always be equal, although that is the law for women. And so you'll be hearing more about that later. And last but not least, we are very much interested in expanding that pipeline so that the leadership of California's community colleges reflect the students that go there to learn and to grow and to develop their own leadership, regardless of what their path may be. Excuse me. So we'd like to start off today just to give you an overview of what we're going to do. Membership update. We'll talk about around the field in your community college and how you can support recognition of women. Pay equity, a resolution that we've been working on. And then also voting, those of you who are members voting on a slate of officers. We'll have time for questions and answers at the end. And I'd just like to say, oh my gosh, we have 249 members. Oh, 250. I like this. I feel like I'm on a telethon. It's great. Just keep those memberships pouring in. We'll hit that bell any minute now. And then we'll have a closing and talk about what our next meeting will be like. So I believe we have Andra Hoffman, who is going to stand in for Linda Waugh today. And just clarify membership. Could you just clarify about our membership and how we transitioned on that from what we initially said?
Sure. Thank you, Nan. And Linda should hopefully be here shortly. In terms of membership, everybody here today is a voting member. Is that the clarification that you wanted me to go through?
Well, that is part of it. We initially started off with associate members who did not have voting privileges, and we listened to the feedback that we got. And so that's where we really made a transition to everyone who is a paid member is a voting member.
So whether your district paid for you to be here or you paid on your own, if you are a paid person, you are a member and you have all the same rights as every other member. We decided that it was really important, even though this is a caucus of the Community College League of California, where mostly, you know, the league serves the CEOs and trustees and districts. We decided that everybody at every level would have an equal voice. We feel that's really important, especially as we look at mentoring women through the pipeline of leadership. So thank you all for being here today. I see 154 participants.
All right. Thank you, Andra. And
I can add to that, Anne. I just want to
Yes.
give a shout out to all of my CEO colleagues out there. You know, I filled out numerous institutional membership forms over the weekend to make sure that all the women who are interested were going to be here today, and the college is paying for their membership. So just want to give a plug out to get everybody engaged. And I know we have more people who will want to join, and it's our commitment that we will pay as a college any woman who wants to join.
Thank you for that promotional moment. Appreciate that. We have over half of the colleges and districts participating now in the Women's Caucus. And I think you would all agree, since there are women in every one of those districts, every one of those colleges, that we would like to see representation from districts and colleges across California. So next, Sonia Christian, president of Bakersfield College.
Well, hello, everyone. I have a very exciting item on the agenda today, and it's really an invitation to participate. I see many faces of my CEO colleagues, so I'm hoping that you will be emailing us and letting us know that you're willing to participate. So make a note of this. If you want to email us in response to my ask, and ask on behalf of the steering committee, the email address you should use, women@cccwomenscaucus.org. And that's our email address, which you will find on the website. So that's women@cccwomenscaucus.org. And Maria, you can drop it in the chat. If you want to direct message us on Twitter, you can find us at CCC Women's Caucus. So what we're attempting to do is, in addition to this entity with the steering committee, we want to create this huge spread across California with women leaders from the community colleges. Imagine if we were to celebrate each of our colleges with a website that talks about what is happening with our women within our local area, whether it is celebrating your trustees, whether it's celebrating your administrators, faculty, classified students, whether it is celebrating Women's History Month. So just sit back and think about the amazing pieces of work that is happening currently on your campus. What if you were to take a few minutes and ping your web person who does your website and have a single page, just as a seed, to start populating that web page with some information about what's happening at Pasadena City, at Porterville College, at Butte College? And what if we were to connect all of these local websites to the Women's Caucus website? We're going to be creating this movement, this exponential growth by crowdsourcing this mobilization. And that's the ask of you today. Shannon has created a web landing page on the Women's Caucus website called Around the Field. And I'm going to have her click on Bakersfield College, since we just sort of put together a website just as an example. So you will see that this is a landing page. It's not very much. Remember, it's just the seed. But over the months, we're going to start populating it with pictures and videos. And this particular page links back to BC and then links back to the Women's Caucus. So it's two-way directional. You can see that Shannon has populated. We had a program on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So we have just pulled in those videos into this particular website. And we also have the Women's History Month celebrations that we have linked up to the website. So it's just an example of what you can think about. So as I'm wrapping up my presentation, what I'm hoping is that all of you have dropped an email to women@cccwomen.org with just a single line that says, "Hi, Butte College is willing to participate. San Diego Mesa is willing to participate, and we will connect up with you." And then make sure if you have a website already ready to go, just provide us the link and Shannon will get that connected. But if you just wanted some time, maybe 20 minutes to get your web person, maybe a faculty member, just to kind of brainstorm ideas, just drop us a note and we will contact you, set up a time. We can brainstorm ideas. So we just get a simple website done that will grow over the months and grow over the years. So that's all I have. Shannon, we're hoping to have at least 10 email messages by the time we reach the 2 o'clock hour. It's good seeing all of you friends across the community college world here in California. Back to you, Nan.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can spread across California and reach so many more people. Remember, we speak to student leaders, we're speaking to current employees of community colleges and community members, certainly the board of trustees, but we're also speaking to people who might be interested in careers in community colleges. So make one of those little dots active for your within your circle of influence, and let's see who we can put in the pipeline because of our efforts to reach out. So next, Erica Androjanis and Daisy Gonzalez they're going to talk about pay equity and a resolution.
Great, thank you. Can we have the resolution up on the screen? Maria?
Yes, I'll pull it up right now.
Okay, great, thank you. And where's Daisy? I know she's here. It's always funny when you're looking at these screens trying to figure out where people are. Okay, well, thank you. So one of our first goals, especially in light of all of the work being done on DEI across the state and with all of the interest in diversifying our staff and our faculty and looking at our processes, when we were in the early formation stages of this organization, of this caucus, we talked a lot about the issue of equal pay. And, you know, California has quite a history of pay equity. In fact, the first act here in California was in 1949, well ahead of the federal government. And there was an update to that 1949 law in 2015, signed by Governor Brown. And at the time, I was working in the LACCD as the president, and the LACCD board actually passed a resolution in favor, you know, kind of providing support for that Equal Pay Act, especially because it did really change some of the ways in which we hire folks in. For example, because of that update to the Equal Pay Act, as of 2017, you were no longer allowed to just say, oh, what's your salary now? Okay, we'll just add 5% and go from there. It specifically said you couldn't do that. The following year, the provision that you couldn't even ask somebody how much they made at their previous job went into effect. And as well as the requirement that institutions really public institutions, look at the way in which they rate people in to make sure that they are doing it according to what are known as the bona fides of that position. What is it that that person's going to do? And what is it that people in similar positions doing similar work do? And you have to look at that and make sure that you're rating people in according to what their background is, what their experience is. And what's kind of it's kind of antithetical in some ways to the way that we hire folks in. We have a set salary schedule. You come in here, you do this, you do that. The problem is that the law basically says you can't do that anymore. And so it's incumbent upon all of our districts to go back and look at our HR policies. This is a great time, especially because we all need to revise and update our EEO plans. And we should be looking at our HR policies and processes to ensure that we are paying attention to how we hire people in. But that takes time. I hope everybody's engaged in it. In some cases, I think a lot of districts didn't even know what the impact of that update to the Equal Pay Act was. So I think some districts may have been slow to respond to that. So part of this today, Dr. Daisy Gonzalez, who I'm going to turn it over to in a minute, did a lot of work on how to have an updated resolution. And the point of this as part of this meeting is to encourage all of us to go back to our districts and get this resolution on your board agenda. And it's timely because as we know, March is Women's History Month. And a lot of boards I know routinely do resolutions in February or even in March, depending on when your board meets, to acknowledge, celebrate Women's History Month. This would be a really great thing to have on your board agenda, either in February in preparation for March or in March, because if we're going to make any headway, we're going to have to actually really take a hard look at how we hire people in. And I think the LACCD has tried to look at that. And you don't even it's funny what you don't even think about. And I'll just give the example of my situation when I got hired. When I got hired in the LACCD, they hired 3 presidents at the same time. All 3 of us started in August of 2014. And all 3 of us, we were new to being presidents, myself, an African-American woman, and an Asian male. The African-American woman and myself came in at step 1 based on the districts we had come from. And the Asian male started at step 9 out of 10 because he came from a district that paid better than the 2 districts that the other female and I came from. And it's going to sound more critical than I mean it to sound, but at the time, that didn't cause any response. That didn't cause any reaction on the part of anybody. It just was kind of, yep, this is what it is, went through, no problem. And I think that probably happens in a lot of places. And so now is really the time to take a look at that and say, that's not okay. And again, to the credit of the LACCD, I did raise this as an issue, and they fixed it 3 years later based on me complaining. And but there were female presidents who came before me who had made similar arguments, but it fell on deaf ears. And so it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't do this to future generations of women. And this is our moment, and this is our responsibility. And yes, we can post the sample resolution because obviously we're going to want you folks to put this on your agenda or some form of it. You don't have to put it on the agenda in this format. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Daisy Gonzalez because she really pulled this together and finalized the copy. So Daisy, do you want to take us through it?
Sure. Thank you, Eric. And I want to make sure we also thank Maria, who also helped put together the very first version of this. So thank you, Maria. If we could scroll all the way to the bottom, Maria, and then I want to tell you what's going to happen next with this resolution, because we know that many different districts, caucuses have resolutions, And if you saw that very top sentence, it said, we know that nothing changes without education and implementation. So this really falls down to the implementation stage. Right after this meeting, we'll send you the resolution, and two things will happen. You're about to vote on a slate of leaders for this caucus. That caucus will submit this resolution to all of the caucus partners, because this is an issue that interacts with the lives of many of their members as well. And then our new slate will have to consider whether this is something that we send to CEOs, what might be the right deployment, how do we move forward? And then the third piece of the implementation stage is all of you. We've now built this sisterhood, and this work relies on all of us advocating at the local level. But let me tell you what this comes down to. We know that there are strong laws in this state. We know that many of these different pieces rely on whether we feel safe in a work environment to highlight some of these issues. And we wanted this resolution to be actionable. Two opportunities exist, as Erica mentioned, this new alignment of our EEO plans, and that's being led by our office as a part of the DI work. Here, we specifically call out for a gender pay analysis, and it's important that we also highlight in B, exempt employees. That's one of the areas, especially for exempt employees, when we look at the numbers of why there are so few women in those positions. We also are asking for a review of hiring and promotion processes to reduce bias. And we know that there's strong commitment. One of the districts that was leading this is already LACCD. But we're also asking that beyond the commitment that you act. And a part of that action is sharing information about the California Fair Pay Act with your employees, which guess what is already required by law. That is not new. And then the last piece, which is we want our colleges to identify and promote best practices on how to close these pay equity gaps. And that includes ensuring their employees that they will be protected against retaliation if they ask questions about enforcing the law. We are, of course, with the new slate, we'll discuss ideas on how to improve this resolution, but all in all, it's time for us to start moving the DI conversation to intersectionality. And for all of you who are a part of this caucus, this work will be critical as you think about your careers. And we're not surprised that this came up as the very top issue that our steering committee wanted to address. With that, happy to answer any questions, but we will follow up via email with the resolution. It will be shared with the other caucuses, and then the new slate will discuss further distribution.
And Daisy, if I can just offer, under the new requirements of the law, women actually have the right to ask questions. So if a woman at your college feels like somebody else is doing the exact same work they're doing, they have the right to go to the college and say, I want to know how much that person makes. And there are retaliation protections. And unlike before, there was actually nothing in the law. I mean, the law said, hey, everything needs to be equal, but there was nothing that specifically said, and if you think it isn't equal, this is what you need to do. So that's a huge change. And that's why it's really imperative for colleges to be proactive about it, because women among your ranks can be proactive about it. So you need to be ready. And the best thing we can do for women, and actually for our entire college, is to be ahead of the curve on this. Daisy, I think that's a question for you. Will the BOG be adopting a resolution?
I am not here in my formal capacity, so that is not an item that was agendized at our last meeting. Happy to answer that when I am back at my regular job.
Well, thank you both for presenting today and for the work that you've done behind the scenes. Also, I believe Ebony worked to help get this organized. And our goal, and I think as you listen to what we are about, you'll see that we're about action. We absolutely believe in the power of words and why it's important that we choose the right word for the right action, but words without action really, well, that doesn't get us anywhere, does it? So where we will go next is we will have this posted on a website. We will also get it out via email. So keep an eye out for that, and then we welcome your questions. There's also a place on the website if you have a question you wish to ask. So next on our agenda is a slate of officers, and I believe Dr. Gonzalez is going to take us through that process for our voting members.
Thank you, Nan. It's my honor to present you all with the slate of officers for our first year of the California Community Colleges Women's Caucus. And this really should have been our incredible co-founder, Linda Waugh, but she is out hopefully getting a vaccine right now as we speak. So let's wish her some luck. So I'm going to read you the names and then you will be asked to vote. The voting is quite simple and Maria will let us know when we begin that. But your co-chairs, you have 2 co-chairs as a part of this slate, 1 vice chair, 1 secretary, 1 treasurer, and 2 members at large. And now I'll read them each next to the name. For co-chair, Erica Andrejonas. For co-chair, Nan Gomez Heinsberg. Your vice chair, Sonia Christian. Your secretary, Ann Beersel. Treasurer, Sally Biggin. Members at large, you have 2, Marta Garcia and Andra Hoffman. And with that, that is your slate for this first year. And we are not entertaining any new candidates. Is that correct, Nan?
That's right. For this first time out, we'll have a nominating committee next time after this group finishes their term, and we'll be entertaining nominees at that point.
So with that, Maria, will you walk us through the voting process and what you're about to post?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and release the poll, which will allow voting members to either vote an A, which is yes for the proposed slate, a no, which is opposing it, and then an abstain. And again, this is for voting members. So you will see it on your screen. We will give all of you a minute to vote, and then we will close out the poll. If you have this on your, if you're listening in on your cell phone device, you will be able to see that on your screen. And thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. She just posted to the chat the positions and the candidates that you will be voting for. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the poll, and you should see it on your screen now.
And let's make sure that the 6 people who joined since the meeting started, you also vote.
Yes, thank you. And thank you everyone for voting. So far, we have over 90 votes. We have about 20 seconds left. And I see some people are posting their response to the chat. I will go ahead and count those in as well. And with that, we're going to close out the chat, the poll. We have 143 out of the 171 folks that are attending that voted, and perhaps those that did not vote are not yet members. Please be sure to visit our website if you wish to become a member. And now I am going to share the results. As you can see, 99% voted in favor of the slate and 2 votes or 1% abstained. So the slate of officer passes. I'm going to stop sharing this now.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you, everyone. I want you to know that there is a place at the table. We've talked about this at our previous meetings. There's a place for everyone. And we will have a membership committee, a policy committee, and also a programming and events committee. So if you have an interest in working on any of those, you have a skill set and passion for moving forward and reaching out to people, developing policy and influencing policy or working on the programming and communication side of things, then please let us know. You can let us know through our website, or you can let us know in the chat room today. So we're at the question and answer period of our caucus. I have a question for you, and that is, what are your interests and your priorities for the Women's Caucus? We said from the very beginning that everyone had a place at the table, and we want to hear your voice, and we want to be able to represent you well in the world and in the community college system. So I encourage you to put down in our chat room where you think you can best utilize your set of skills. It may be to influence another organization, AAUW, or serve on your board of trustees and bring these issues forward. It doesn't have to be a formalized way, but we would like to hear from you, what you think is important and where your passion lies. Also, if anyone has any questions for any of us, we've been trying to do that as we went along in the chat room, but we're also open to answering any questions that you may have. You can unmute yourself and ask, or drop it into the chat room, either way. I used to be in the classroom, so I can wait a while.
Nan, you have a couple of people that have mentioned things on the chat. Do you want me to read those off to you?
Would you please?
Sure. So we have Samantha, who says she would like to support intersectionality to ensure that this caucus is supporting all of the women and female identifying members of our community. And we have Susan, who would love to work on communication. And those are the ones I have so far on the chat.
Okay. Anyone in our now our slate of officers like to speak to intersectionality, because we certainly have devoted some time to it in our meetings.
Well, I
Erica?
think that's one of the reasons that, it's interesting. Until a couple of years ago, there weren't that many caucuses within the within CCLC, so much so that they could have all of their caucus meetings at the same time. If you go back and look at CCLC programs from a couple of years ago, they were all, from 4 to 5 on one of the days. But now there are quite a few of us who overlap in those caucuses, and so I think we're going to see more attention to that, because we are here and we're not in other caucus meetings. There is, there is an LGBTQ caucus now. There's been a veterans caucus. So I think we're going to start to see other groups come together, and I think the more we can do that, the better. And I think this is also, going back to the EEO plans, I think this is part of our DEI efforts across the state. Is we really need to look at that intersectionality. We also have the conundrum of the CSU ethnic studies requirement that's very, you either take a class in this or you take a class in this. And so that's another place where I think our voice saying, yeah, it's not just one thing. It's, especially women across all of these categories. So what does that look like? And how do we accomplish that, both from an administrative perspective, as well as from what happens in the classroom? So however, I don't know what that looks like, but that's the excitement of being in this caucus.
Nan, we do have one hand up. I think it's Ruby. Go ahead and unmute.
Wow, don't know how I did that, but okay. I would just agree that I think it's really important to have intersectionality. I think, particularly at this moment in time that we're in, that we don't just kind of silo ourselves just as women, but to look at, other issues, particularly, I think much about the minority groups that many of us represent here in this group.
Thank you for those observations. And I don't want to misquote Dr. Gonzalez, but I believe if I could catch the essence of something she said in a tweet, which is, you know, however you identify, it's sometimes difficult to know what may set off biases in others. And so to recognize who we are and to have the strength of knowing that, but also to be insightful about how others may be responding to us because of how we identify. Because in knowing that, that's how we make changes, by being forthright and direct. Any other questions? Answers to questions we didn't ask? Let's move to, go ahead.
Caucus. I noticed the LGBT caucus meeting was canceled. Is that right? Do we know why?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, it was canceled because we didn't get the word out to folks enough who were not attending, who hadn't already registered for the conference. What we found when we had our meeting back in November at CCLC was that we had a lot of folks who are not CEOs and who are not trustees who also want to be involved. So we were in the process of working on our bylaws. Like, we already have a really cool logo. We got, you know, a lot of energy going, but we hadn't done enough. And we realized that a lot of folks didn't even know the meeting was coming. So we sent out a message to them, and I believe we're going to meet in March. So it's still there. It just didn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, let's move on to closing. And just thinking about what we've gone over today, reaching out to others, certainly acknowledging the accomplishments of others. That's something that we can do on a daily basis, isn't it? We don't have to reserve that for a caucus meeting or a resolution of the board. We will have a meeting in March, and that will be on International Women's Day, March 8th. And we'll post on our website and send out a message about the specific time, but usually we're in the 1 to 2 o'clock range, so you can mark that on your calendar now. I will tell you, I visited the Women's International webpage. A friend of mine advised me to do that, and the color is purple this year. I don't know what you want to do with that, but just wanted you to know. And also, you'll find that it's about #we accept the challenge. There's so many ways in which we can accept the challenge to move forward for equity for women and to create a whole new world of leadership and expand that pipeline for community colleges. So if there isn't, this is the last opportunity for you to have a voice at the table. Going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, so we're closing out today. Thank you all for participating. This is an amazing group of people, and we look forward to working together to advance women in California community colleges. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maria and Rena and Shannon in particular.